If you're in two of the largest counties in the Carolinas and you need a workforce provider, then you need Horry-Georgetown Technical College, and they need Neyle Wilson. Meet him, part 2, coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Elizabeth Maddox Chapin Library on the Grand Strand campus of Horry-Georgetown Technical College. We're focused on the college, and we're on part 2 with President Neyle Wilson. Good morning,
Greg,
Neyle.
good to see you.
And thank you for coming back in.
Thanks for having me back.
To wrap up the week, of course, kicking off the week, Memorial Day. I hope you had a great Memorial Day.
Yeah, we did. We enjoyed it very much.
So much happening in town, and obviously this past
Lots
weekend,
of traffic.
a lot of traffic. The Mayfly Air Show, my daughter and I got out of town to head to Florence, I hate to say it, for the Mayfly Air Show. Tom Marshall was with us last Monday, about 10 days ago, the president of the Florence Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. They put on this annual event. It's now going to biennial event. They spent $326,000 to bring in all these planes and trucks. You should have seen them racing up and down the...
Well, I bet it was very interesting, wasn't it?
Unbelievable out there. They really do it right. I wish we could have something like that in the area, but of course there's a lot of people flying up and down the roads in Horry County this past weekend.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so much happening at the college. It's so exciting to get you back in, and obviously we ran out of time yesterday. We want to talk a little more about some of the great programs that are happening, about the foundation, the tremendous foundation and its assets that have grown dramatically, but still more needs that the foundation has, but also the early college childhood, the early college high school initiative. A lot happening with that. But our director had mentioned after we wrapped up the show yesterday a great question. Are any of our viewers too old or too young to attend classes at Horry-Georgetown Technical College?
Absolutely not. Now, if you want to take one of our credit courses, then you have to be at least 16 years old.
Okay, right.
And have permission from your parents and your principal. But in terms of our continuing education classes, there are not any age limits, either too young or too old, unless what's being taught would have some issues relative to age.
Right, right, very important. Well, you know,
and our continuing education probably would average up in the 50s and a lot of people in their early 60s.
You probably couldn't spend, I mean, it wouldn't be less than an hour for you just to rattle off all of the different courses that you all provide for continuing education in the area.
We have 70 academic programs, and then we probably have another 150 to 200 courses that we'd offer each semester in continuing education. So, yeah. But now the nice thing about both those two areas, in a credit side as an example, everything that we offer has to be approved through the Commission on Higher Education.
Right.
And we have to document that there are job needs in the service area. So everything we offer, we know that the job availability is in the two counties. So, which is neat to know that if you graduate from us, there's likely going to be a job for you in Horry and Georgetown County.
That is very important. So all of the continuing education classes,
we have to document that there's a need, unless it's a community interest kind of thing. We do some of those things where it's not skill-related, job-related. But other than that, it's skill-related, job-related, then we have to document that those are needs in the community.
Well, you all have found some great partnerships for some of the ones that aren't necessarily as skill-related, but still are. Some of the horticultural programs down at Brook Green Gardens or otherwise, we've seen some of those year after year. Some of the cooking classes. Ultimately, the folks who take a couple of culinary classes could roll that into a career.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times they take it for personal interest, but sometimes they also take it to gain a skill, to enhance what they're doing or to take a new career.
Sure.
So all of our programs are designed to do that, to provide jobs for Horry and Georgetown County, which has been our mission since 1966 when the institution opened. It has been workforce development. We talked about developing the workforce back when developing the workforce wasn't all that cool. It was a lot of stuff in higher education about educating the whole man and the kind of things that you talked about in those days. Now everybody's in the workforce development, economic development. And our mission was that from the word go, and it has not changed. What has changed primarily, Greg, is the complexity of the kinds of jobs that we train for. In the early 60s, middle 60s, it was primarily electricity, welding, those kinds of things. Today we're into computer technology,
Right.
we are into allied health, we are into all kinds of high-tech, upper-level kinds of professions that are needed in this area.
Oh, absolutely. And they truly are. And whether or not it's on the full-time side or the part-time student for credit, that 5,800 head count you talked about yesterday, or on the continuing education side, the number of people who need to get some good basic computer skills to be able to perform in the workplace are critical.
Yeah. What we are finding is that there is a real gap between what education and what the job requirements are. Let me give you some examples of those real quick one to think about. When I finished high school in 1965, that dates myself, 20% of the jobs in South Carolina required a baccalaureate degree. That percent has not changed 1% up to 2008, still 20%. In 65% of your jobs you could do with a high school diploma, and the remainder of the jobs took something outside of high school but not a baccalaureate degree.
Right.
That's all completely flipped over. Today, only 15% of the jobs you can do with a high school diploma. 65% of the jobs you can do, you need to have at least something beyond high school. So a 1 or 2 year degree now has become an absolute necessity. You can no longer expect to have the kind of lifestyle that you'd like to have if you just stop at high school. And people need to know that. But if you look at where they're going, what they're pursuing, then you wonder if they really know, because you got 28% of the graduates in the state are pursuing baccalaureate degrees, so they're pursuing 28% of the jobs. Okay? Then you got 32% of the students that are graduating are going out to 2 year degrees, and they're pursuing 65% of the jobs. And then the remainder of the students, which are about 40%, are trying to compete for 15% of the jobs. So there is a gap. There's a disconnect between education requirements and what job requirements are.
How are y'all getting the word out to make sure that folks just see the reality of those
Well,
figures?
hopefully this pathways legislation that was passed several years ago that's beginning to have an impact on 8th graders, they're going to become more aware of career education. In fact, there is some semblance of career education taking place as early as the 6th grade in our public schools. Then in the 8th grade, the students have to make a decision along with their parents to select one of either 14 or 16 career clusters. And then they have an individualized pathway to that by courses that they take. What they would take courses that would be related to that career cluster. For example, if you thought you might want to be an engineer, in high school you would probably take an introduction to engineering, where they may go through the 6 or 7 engineering disciplines and tell you what mechanical engineers do, what chemical engineers do, what civil engineers do. And so you have an opportunity to know what these professions do, where are the jobs, how much do they tend to pay, and these kinds of things that most young people don't know, and often parents don't know. So they're trying to move down that career path. And then we're doing something called early college.
Yes.
Which has worked out very well for us.
Share with viewers a little bit about that program.
We are into our 2nd year. We will start our 3rd year this fall. We take approximately 100 students from the 9th grade. These are not the best or brightest. They're that middle quartile kid that for some reason is not performing up to his or her standards, or just doesn't feel like they fit into a normal high school setting. And they're coming to us, and they will take the 9th grade like they would at their high school, but on our campus. Then they take the 10th grade, and they start taking college courses as they qualify to do so. As they meet our admission standards, they begin to take college courses.
That young.
Theoretically, what we hope is that they will graduate from high school 1 week. Some of them will graduate with a 2 year degree the 2nd week. What it looks like, though, in terms of the reality is they would at least have 1 year college under their belt, which is significant, because what you're seeing with an awful lot of these young men and women that don't perform, aren't motivated, whatever the issues may be, they go to work, and then they come back to us in droves at age 25 and 26, as I told you was our average age. But they've been in the workplace for 8 years, underproductive, underskilled, frustrated, often getting in a lot of debt. And so when they come to us at 26, 27 years old, they are a much more at risk student than they would be had they started at 18 or 19 or 20 years old. And so what we're trying to do with these people is to go ahead and get them a 2-year degree, and then everything that they take practically will transfer to a senior institution.
Right.
And in this program, for the first class, the business community has gotten together, and they have promised these young men and women that if they qualify, they will pay their tuition. Not room and board, but tuition. And what they're doing now is determining what that would be. It has to be some average across the state to go to college. So it's opening some doors for some young men and women that they may never have thought of.
Oh, yeah.
Because many of them are first generation, anybody going beyond high school.
The amazing thing is just trying to think through that aspect. Assumably the people helping to put together the program, are there examples of men and women locally that actually went the correct route? I mean, I say the correct route, that went that route, that it's worked out, and now they're 40, 50, 60, and they showed that that is the route to go. Ultimately, you have to kick off programs and plan it, but assumably most of the folks with masters or doctors in education went a liberal arts way, went 4 years at age 18, didn't do anything like this. How did y'all go about determining this is the right route? Neil Wilson's a guy out of high school, goes to Clemson, finished, later gets a master's. I mean, clearly you followed the normal route for folks getting into
but
education.
I'm pretty typical. I am not necessarily doing what I was trained to do. I finished Clemson with a forestry degree.
Right.
Never took any teaching courses or anything like that. So I came back and just taught as a reflection of the economy at the time.
Right. Right.
And you see that with lots of people that go off to school. That I think something like less than 50% of the people actually end up working in their major.
Oh, I'm sure. But I mean, you just think about those basics, not to digress anymore, but that idea about so many folks, how do they really know it? 6th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade.
They really don't. Right. And that's a question that concerns some of the public, is that we're not trying to do the old European model where in the 9th grade you determine based on some intelligence test whether you're going to go off to higher education or you're going to earn a trade and go to work right out of high school. Right. That's not what we're suggesting to do. What we're trying to suggest is that if young men and women make reasonable career choices, they're going to be a better fit when they go off to school, whether it's 2 or 4 years. They're going to persist better, and they're going to be happy, more productive citizens down the road if you do what you think you want to do. But often at 18 years old, very few of us knew. I mean, I made my choice as an example, Greg, to take forestry because there wasn't a foreign language requirement, and I love the outdoors. But did I know whether I could make any money or not? Did I know really what the job requirements were? I had sort of a Lassie mentality about it. You know, I thought I'd ride around a truck with a shotgun in the back and a rod and reel and a dog beside me. Well, that's not exactly what that profession is about. So lots of people make choices based on either imagined or erroneous data about what the career is.